Welcome. This is a lesson on how to get from the broad to the narrow when you're doing research. You may remember that at some point this year we shared this matrix with you, and this really kind of works you through the phases of your research. So we're going to go through this a little bit slowly. The key is that your research informs your learning and your learning informs your research. So the two are symbiotic. This is the exploratory phase. And this is really where you're just kind of Googling around and you're figuring out what you want to learn about. In this list of results for Emmett Till plus Artifact, we have the number one hit is the Emmett Till Museum, which is on the Village of Glendora, Mississippi's website, and it's not particularly informative about Emmett Till or about the museum for that matter. But it does have an interesting little suggested links, the first of which, for real, is Wikipedia, but there are two links to excellent PBS websites. But you'll notice that even the URL for the last one, http://pbs.org, will just take you to the general PBS website. So I'm not sure that this is really a great resource for you. A second resource in the list of search results in Google is the Dwight D. Eisenhower Presidential Library. And without even going beyond this page, and you should, because this is filled with fabulous primary sources, there are fabulous keywords in this list. So just the first of which is the Chicago Defender. And as a newbie researcher on the Emmett Till subject, you might not know what the Chicago Defender is. And notice my notes over here on the keywords are not in brilliant order, and they require a little bit of capitalization and work. But those are just notes, and you should be doing this as you're looking through these websites, is taking down these notes. So the Chicago Defender, a little further investigation will lead you to the headlines in the Chicago Defender, which was a black newspaper, black media coming out of Chicago at the time. And here's the reprint, so to speak, or the reposting of one of the articles from the Chicago Defender, the first one. So back to this presidential library, once you've done your keywords, then you can go into the individual primary sources and start investigating further. So that's a great resource. The third resource in our list of search results is from Asheville High School. It's basically an outline of a paper about Emmett Till. Not really worth your time. The fourth resource is Mapping the Stacks. It's a guide to Black Chicago's hidden treasures. You can see you have additional keywords down here that you can grab, so that helps add to the list. So you can see trial, and then wait, we need the names of the defendants. We're still in our exploratory phase, and we don't really have that information yet. But that's something that we need to be mindful of as we continue on our exploratory phase of our research. Without the URL, it's really hard to know what this is. But once you see the URL, you can see mts.lib.uchicago.edu. So all of a sudden you know it's a library of some sort and it's out of the University of Chicago. You can also follow the breadcrumbs. That's the list of steps that you've taken within this website to get there, and that can also take you back to the home page to help you learn more about the site. So this is the home page of Mapping the Stacks, and you can see that if you wanted to check the project background, you'd be able to get a little bit more information about it. Interestingly enough, in our search of Emmett Till artifacts, number 5 and number 3 are the same. We've already seen the one in between. It's that high school paper. The 6th is the Washington Post. This is Smithsonian's African American History Museum, and they acquired the Emmett Till casket. So while it's a great article and it's very informative, it might not be the right article for you in the exploratory phase of your research when you're trying to develop research questions. All right, step 2 is the investigation plan. And for this, you can start digging a little bit deeper into bigger websites. You want a lot of content here. So here's one example, the Crime Library. And it has, if we go through this, it has really, like, literally pages and pages, 16 pages, I think, all in all, of content about the Emmett Till case, and it's broken down. It's very well organized. But you might be asking yourself at this point, what is this all about? So digging around on the website, when you're saying, what's this all about? you really kind of want to see some more information. You do have partners in crime, and there's some major news organizations, news media that that grabbed our attention. But there's not a whole lot of other information about it until you go down to the very, very, very bottom of the page, and it says next to the copyright date, Turner Entertainment Network. The next step is to just kind of Google it and see what that's all about. What is it? And you'll see the warning at the top of this Wikipedia post that says that it's not necessarily a reliable article, but the Crime Library is a website. It's owned and operated by truTV, a cable TV network that's part of Time Warner's broadcasting system. So that does confirm that it is really part of truTV. So when we look at that list of partners in crime, I think it's safe to say that they don't want anything that seems screamingly biased, that's going to disrupt their revenue or create a boycott or create some controversy around that. So it is safe to say that the content is probably fairly reliable. Here's another example of a very rich resource. The American Experience is a television program on PBS, and their web content is really comprehensive. So if you flip through this, you can see there is a vast array of resources to draw from. It's huge, absolutely huge, including the transcript from the actual television program. But you can see all of the options you have as you click through the menu of available resources here. So at this point, you're down at the end of the exploratory phase. You really should have a working thesis. So in this case, I made one up. Although it targeted a minority audience, the black press played a key role in turning Emmett Till's murder into a cornerstone event in the American campaign for civil rights. So at this point, now you have to implement the plan. You have to collect all your evidence, and you have to organize it in a relevant and meaningful argument. And one of the first things you should be doing at this stage is really carefully scrutinizing your resources to make sure that they're current, reliable, authoritative, and they have purpose, that they're truthful and they are useful. In organizing your evidence, for me, a timeline is helpful, and this is really not a very legit timeline because you'll see that the spaces between the dates are really not consistent. But in my thesis, saying that really the black media played a huge role in making the Emmett Till case a catalyst for the advancement of civil rights in America, that defining moment, that Jet magazine article was a turning point. So we really measured the mainstream media that came out before that I have access to, which is fairly limited, before that about the Emmett Till cases, compared to the mainstream media that occurred afterwards, which is much more substantive and has some fairly heated descriptions for what's going on in the black media. So that's really how this is starting to come together. So we have to look at that sort of pivotal moment and examine the media on both sides and how the civil rights conversation changed as a result of that. So now we really want to go to look at the transcript of the court case. The court case, interestingly enough, in Emmett Till happened very soon after the incident. He was killed on August 28th in 1955. The trial began, I think, on September 22nd, and the defendants were acquitted on the 24th. So it was a really fast turnaround. It was less than a month. Here are the actual transcripts. It's broken into two parts on the FBI website. You'll notice at the bottom of every screen in every single one of these slides there is a citation for that in MLA 7. And here we have somebody collected all the Jet magazines that had articles about Emmett Till. His name is Jerry Whiting, and he posted them on his website. And so if you see down in the lower left-hand corner, that's what we're scrolling through. But these are the images that first appeared in the September 15, 1955 Jet magazine that really were pivotal. This marked a turning point in the civil rights campaign in America. And an interesting take on this, because it's always important to gather a lot of information and multiple perspectives. Here's a much more updated discussion about using the face of Emmett Till in that Jet magazine article. And this is really, interestingly enough, this is drawing a correspondence between President Obama's decision to not release photos of Osama bin Laden after he was killed, and Jet magazine's decision to release the images of Emmett Till after he was murdered. And here's his description, and you can see that last paragraph is where he draws his comparisons. So I had no idea what cuss media was. I liked this comparison. I thought it brought an interesting point of view to this conversation. And the only way to learn more about it was to scroll way, way down, and I mean way down. It was really far, to the bottom of the page where we see about, and there's information about the masthead that gives a lot of identification to the people who are responsible for the website, and the editors. But the history was really what I wanted to get at, and that was able to get me this information, which helped me create the citation, which is on the site. Then I really wanted to examine the Look magazine, in which that interviewed the two acquitted defendants. And then you really want to start digging around in the databases. In this case, I used Academic Search Premier, which searches scholarly journals. It's going to have some insightful articles about the role of the media in the Emmett Till case and the advancement of the civil rights movement. So then you really have to pause and ask yourself, what points of view do you still need to include? And this is where we went back and we got an interview with David Jordan, who was a senator. And also the role of Emmett Till's murder in the influence on the Black Panther Party. So really, you're taking a fairly radical civil rights organization and how they were influenced by the events here, and it opens up with a discussion about the Chicago Defender articles, and so that was certainly relevant. So then we're really, once you've done all of those things and you've really answered those questions, gone back to look at what's missing, that's when it's really okay to sit down and start doing your writing and write your paper. Be sure to question everything.